Hey everyone, welcome back to Teenager Therapy. I'm Gael,
I'm Thomas.
I'm Kayla.
and welcome back to the podcast. Now, if you're listening to this, it's because you're either thinking about giving up on someone, or you have given up on someone, or someone has given up on you. All three very sad things.
I forgot what we were talking about for a moment, so that caught me off guard. But yes,
Yeah, no, that's the topic for
that
today.
is the topic.
A little bit of a sad topic, which sometimes is hard because we're like so bubbly beforehand, and then we're suddenly talking about letting go of people and like giving up on them. But
It's hard to get into the mood sometimes to talk about something serious.
I feel like I've experienced this a lot where I tend to just not want to let go of people. And I've talked about this before, and we've done
Mhm.
episodes on when to let go and when to keep fighting. And this one is really just like the moment where you're actually like, okay, I am done. Like, I have given up. There's no point. And I think recently I reached that point in a very close relationship of mine. And I'll tell you a little bit about how it played out. There was this person in my life that I had been very close with for years. You know, I had gone through a lot of ups and downs with them, but ultimately we always kind of solved our issues and made peace with our differences. And they were someone that I really valued. I mean, I kind of hoped that I would be a part of their lives for the rest of my own life. However, there was a switch that occurred a couple months ago where we started to grow apart, and there was this disconnect that started to happen that I didn't even realize was there, because I think when you start to disconnect from someone, it often happens really slowly. You don't even realize what's going on. You're just like, oh my god, why do things not feel the same way they did before? And so here I am with this person, slowly growing apart, and eventually enough time passes by and the distance grows great enough that I actually start to notice it. And suddenly, it's like when you suddenly look up and you're like, whoa, like, I don't recognize this person. Or when did they change so much? When did we and our relationship change so much? And I think that's always a weird moment. And I've experienced this in a couple of other relationships in the past. So it wasn't necessarily a new feeling. And I was like, oh, shoot, like that's what's happening. And you know how they say that, like, and this is a quote that was said under the context of romantic relationships, but I think it applies with friendships as well. And any other type of relationship you have, is that being with someone for a long time, for any period of years or decades or however long it might be, is being at peace with the person that they no longer are and the person that they're growing into. So it's like witnessing the death of a person a million times over and over. Because of course, as humans, we're not static and we change and grow over time. And that is really uncomfortable. And I think for me, something I have experienced more times than I would like is when someone grows for the worse. And I think sometimes I might just be surrounding myself by people that aren't the healthiest, or that are just not, you know, ideal with my own standards. And so it sucks when you see that someone is not necessarily growing with you, but they're growing apart, which can kind of cause it to feel like they're growing for the worse. But again, who am I to say they're growing for the better or for worse? Like, it's not my role to do that. However, I do think it's like in my own boundary to be thoughtful about when that relationship no longer serves me, right? And so what happened is I realized that there was this person in my life that I no longer necessarily liked. And it's weird because when you go from loving someone to suddenly not liking them, even just as the basis of the person they are, it's weird because it's like I loved you so much. Like, you were a really great and special person in my life, and now I don't even like you? Like, when did that happen? And so that was a really weird thing to process. And I think when, you know, sometimes the other person doesn't do anything wrong. In my case, they did hurt me in a lot of ways, which was difficult. But after talking about it with my therapist, I came to this resolution, right? That my relationship with them had gotten to a point where I no longer wanted to argue with them or change them or hold on to them. It was more at a point where I just wanted to express to them and make sure they understood how they had hurt me and the ways that I felt like we were different and had grown apart. And I think that's the main differentiator for me. That is what makes me feel like it's time to just give up on someone instead of fighting for them, is when I realize, like, I don't even like the person you are. And when that switch happens with me, I think I do a very quick switch up. Like, I straight up go from fighting for them forever, like wanting to fix things, doing everything to make it work, to suddenly being like, like, that's it. Like, I'm done. Don't want to fight anymore. Like, you go do your own thing. I can't be bothered by this. And so that happened recently with the person in my life. And talking about it with my therapist is what really helped me realize when it's time to let go. It's when you realize that you don't even it's not even about who's right or who's wrong. And I think sometimes when you're trying to decide if you should give up on someone, it can be tempting to want to convince them of the ways they've hurt you, or of all the ways they're growing for the worse, or growing in a bad direction. And, all of those attempts are ultimately useless, because you can't change someone to grow for you, and you can't really be the one to decide what's right and wrong. And so for me, I recognize that they were growing for the worse, in my personal opinion. And I think I was able to decide that because I was thoughtful about what I needed in a person and what I wanted in someone and the way that I wanted to be treated. And they didn't treat me that way after I expressed my needs. And so that's when I realized, like, I mean, if you're not going to do it, then there has to be a point where I just kind of have to move on, which is sad, because I know it's tempting to try to convince them, like, please treat me a certain way. And so after my own personal struggle, kind of coming to terms with it, the light kind of flipped, or the switch flipped in my mind, where I was like, you know what? I think it's time to let go. Like, I don't want to be friends anymore. I don't like the person you are. Like, let's just move on. And ever since then, I feel like I've felt a lot better letting go of that, because I think it was a relationship in my life that was really dragging me down. And so that is a recent conclusion that I came to, that helped me realize when it was time to let go of someone. So that's my story.
Wow. Do you think when you fully give up on somebody or let them go, you let them go 100%? Or do you still have a little bit of hope that, they'll come back?
I think I try to let go 100% as a way to defend myself, or kind of shield myself. Because who else this happened with? This also happened with Mark. Because at some point in high school, we used to be really close friends. And we were really close. Like, I considered him my best friend, basically. But then, like, over time, like, one day I just kind of took a step back. I looked up and I was like, wait, like, I don't like the way you treat me. Like, and it really hurt. And I remember, like, every time you realize that, where you, like, look up and you kind of look around as to where your relationship with some person is, and you realize it's it's not where you thought it was, it hurts a lot. And for me, like, those are the worst types of realizations. Like, I get so hurt because I'm like, why have I been putting in so much effort? And then I'm just now realizing that I feel dumb. I feel stupid. And so I think as a coping mechanism, I flip the switch in a very, like, 180 type of way of, like, I go from just doing everything I can to make it work to just completely giving up. And I think it's a way to protect myself and to avoid getting hurt. And so I like to say like in at first I am very like cold about it, like that's it. And it serves me well, and I think it does help me move on. But I think as soon as the pain and the hurt and the anger's gone, I do have a habit of warming up a little bit more, which I'm slightly trying to not do, because I think sometimes it just re- regresses a lot of the progress that I make.
I think I have a hard time giving up on people.
Why?
Well, just to preface, I feel I haven't had many experiences where I've had to give up on people. Um, besides the one you mentioned. But besides that, I feel like I haven't been in many situations. But you did bring up a good point where if you don't even like them as a person, just the basis of who they are, it just makes being around them really difficult. Not just as a friend, just, two people being together in the room, it just becomes suddenly very uncomfortable, and your differences are just the only thing that you notice at that point. But I have a hard time giving up on people just because I feel I just think like, well, who else is going to be there for them? Like who else is going to take care of them or be their friend in the way that, not in the way that I was, but, just be their friend in general. So that makes it really hard for me to let go. And also, you hold on to the things they did, who they were, the good memories you guys had. And, or I like to think that a part of that is still in there somewhere, even if it is lost or buried. And it'll only take some time before they turn around. But that time where they are just, being a shitty person or just a different person than what you're used to, obviously it affects you, But I just have a hard time pulling back because I feel like everybody deserves somebody that's just there regardless. Even if they may not deserve it all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time with it.
I think I like to give up to protect myself. And I usually do not really give up until I reach a point where I know that if I keep on giving myself to this relationship, I'm going to get hurt. And so to protect myself, I will fully give up on them. And I think I do it pretty easily if I know it's not gonna hurt me. But
that's so scary that you'll just give up on them.
It's a coping mechanism. I'm scared of getting hurt again because of trauma in the past. And I know that if I have a good feeling that this is the person that I'm gonna have to surround myself with and have to support, and I don't even like the person, it comes to a point where I have to be real with myself and I have to save myself from potentially getting hurt again. And I feel like I haven't had too many instances where that has happened, but throughout my life there definitely has been people where I just don't really recognize them anymore, and there's this person that isn't really nice to me and cares about other things, and it's just they've changed for better or for worse, but in my case it's for worse because I don't like the person that they've become. And so yeah, I'll give up on them if it means saving myself. Sometimes you just have to be selfish. And I think that's something that I have kind of struggled learning because I feel like I have been super selfless in the past to a fault where I'm constantly going to be there for someone even when they don't deserve it. And I think over time with new experiences and stuff, I'm just realizing that I can't keep being selfless. And there are times where I need to start being selfish and stand up for myself and realize that I don't owe this person anything and they don't owe anything to me. And at the end of the day, I have to put myself first.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Exactly. I think you put it really great is they don't owe you anything.
Yeah, that's the sad thing is that nobody owes each other anything, and as soon as you realize that, you have to reevaluate what it means for you to be there for that person.
Yeah, because I think when we get hurt and when we see someone that isn't acting in a way that we agree with, at least for me, I put all my energy into trying to convince them to be a better person. It's like, why are you acting like this? Like, it's not right for you to treat people like this. It's not right for you to do this. And then you try to almost beg for them to see why they shouldn't be doing that to you. So you might start saying things like, after I did this for you, and after I did this for you, you did this, you did this. And there has to be a point where you have to understand it's not worth it to do that. At that point, just, it might be better to give up on them because, like I said earlier, you can't force anyone to change. If you don't think they're a good person, and if they haven't been treating you like a good person would, you pointing out all the things they're doing bad and what they should do instead isn't going to help. They're not going to see it, and if they do, it doesn't mean they're actually going to change. So you really have to value their actions over their words.
Yeah. And you should never have to beg someone to treat you a certain way. You can communicate to someone, but you should never have to beg them time after time for them to just be a good person to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever felt like you've been given up on?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think I have, and I don't necessarily blame them or hate them because I can be real with myself, and I know that I haven't been the best friend, and I'm not the greatest person to have ever existed. Like, I've done a lot of things wrong, and I don't always deserve someone's unconditional support. And I know that for those who have given up on me, it's not like they did it wrongfully. Like, I kind of deserved it. And I know that now. And I know that it's just something that I have to kind of keep in mind and work on. And yeah.
That's another point that I wanted to bring up that you kind of reminded me of is sometimes it's for the best
to give up on somebody. Yeah, someone. It really is.
I think for me, a big challenge is feeling like I'm the one that's going to help them and change them and help them grow. And that's why I have a hard time giving up on people, because I'm like, no, like, I don't want to give up on you. I want to help you grow. But it's also important to realize that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is give up on them and help them see that these are the consequences of it. Because or else people get so complacent that's like, look, I'm acting like a shitty person. No one has ever given up on me.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah,
what's the point?
Yeah, because I mean, I've been on both sides of it. I have been the person that has received shitty treatment, and I have been the one to give someone shitty treatment and get away with it. And I think that one, it's all about just respecting yourself enough to know that you don't deserve to be treated a certain way, and that final decision to give up on somebody, it hurts them, obviously, and you might feel guilty and regretful about that, but over time, I think it helps them become a better person because they realize that they've hurt somebody else and that they've lost somebody because of their actions or behaviors, and that hopefully encourages them to learn for the better. But that's not always the case. But I mean,
yeah, it's always a risk.
It's a risk.
I think
But you just, again, it's all about respecting yourself.
Yeah, and honestly, I think as long as you trust that if you respect yourself, good will come out of it. Like, you'll be okay. Because for me, even when I give up on someone, I still feel the urge to kind of come back for them and help them grow. And I feel guilt sometimes, like, oh no, maybe I should have stuck out with them a little longer and helped them and talked it through. But again, reminding yourself, no, like they need to realize that on their own. If they truly value you, if they ever really are going to change, it's going to be after they realize what they are losing because of their own actions. And if they've actually done the work to grow as a person and be better, they'll be the ones to reach out to you.
Yeah.
And understand when to do it. And if they never do, then it was the right choice to give up. So you can't ever make the wrong choice. Because choosing to respect yourself, I think only good will come out of it. Either they never reach out and you realize it's good you're no longer putting energy into them because they wouldn't have put it back ever, or eventually they do and you kind of help them grow by taking that time apart.
Yeah. Very well said. But I have fallen victim to reaching out to them again. Like, I give up on them and then I feel bad. And so I reach out and apologize. But the thing is that they never reached out to me. And it sucks. And it just kind of reminded me that sometimes people don't change for the better. And it doesn't make sense why I was the one to have reached out when the whole reason we stopped being, close was because of something that they did to me. And yeah, I mean, because it's easy to feel guilty for giving up on somebody. You start to internalize stuff. You start to think that you might have been the problem and that you are a bad person for giving up on them. But I don't know. I think me reaching out to that person and the way that they responded, it kind of just solidified my opinions of them and just that I made the right decision not staying in their lives because, again, I just don't like them as a person. Has anyone ever given up on you, Kayla?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I feel like it's a hard question to answer because sometimes I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't. I'm gonna say at least nobody that I cared about that would make a significant impact on me that I would remember.
Damn. But I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. But I feel like I have a small irrational fear of like somebody giving up on me, even though it hasn't happened yet. I'm just like, even my close group of friends now, if something were to happen that tested our friendship or whatever, that they would just give up is so scary. Because, I mean, again, the circumstances of this hypothetical situation, but I don't know. I would just want somebody that's like there 100% all in.
Yeah, it's just crazy how fast things can change, and
I know.
You can never see it coming, and then suddenly you don't recognize the person that you're with. And
I know, and that's so scary because I mean, even now, like, to think, even if one of you did a sudden 180, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what I would do.
It's hard because that person meant so much to you at a certain point in your life, and for them to just not serve that point anymore, it's sad. And it's something that you can't predict either. It just kind of happens.
Yeah.
But that won't be happening. Don't worry, Kayla.
I know, like,
yeah,
we're locked in, y'all.
Gosh.
You're on contract.
On contract. You see, I feel like, honestly, I think maybe it has happened to me, which is weird. I don't know if I ever recognized it as them giving up on me. I always saw it more as they never really fought for you, you know?
That counts.
So I guess it's like the same thing, just worded differently. But now that I think about it, I guess it has happened, and that's why I feel so hurt when I look around and realize that, and that's what I was trying to say is, yeah, I think there's been a lot of times where I thought someone would, I think, I don't know if this is ego or what it is, but I've had times where I'm just like, really? Like that's it? Like you're not gonna feel, maybe make a bigger attempt to save this friendship or to not give up. And again, that's happened with like, I remember it happening with like friends in the past and just feeling like, oh, so you're just like okay with things like fizzling out and just you move on. To me, that I remember that hurting a lot. Is feeling like, oh, I mean, they seem okay with it. And
yeah,
I remember
the
that
joke
hurting a
feels
lot.
like it's on you because you're the one who gave up, but you're the one
Who was given up on.
And
Yeah, so was I the one that gave up, or did I just realize they gave up on me and that's why I was so hurt? And that's when I was like, what other choice do I fucking have? So that has happened and it hurts a lot. It really does. It's like, just like, damn. And then, of course, like, yeah, like that has happened with like a friend in the past. And then I'm trying to think of the situation that happened recently, if I would consider that them giving up on me. In an extent, I guess it's the same thing when you give up on someone. Because I guess to me, it feels like they weren't willing to grow and fix and take take your feelings into consideration to maybe accommodate and make you feel better or more at peace because they value you in their life. And I think to me, when someone doesn't make that attempt and they're just kind of okay with treating you in a way that you've expressed is hurtful, I suppose that's them giving up on you. It's like they don't care.
Yeah.
It's just sorry.
You're an afterthought.
Yeah.
And even then, like, they don't care enough to fix it.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, like really? You're not gonna. I can't. I honestly have trouble even. I don't know, I get disoriented trying to understand how they could be so okay with it, with just losing people that they've known for years and being okay with letting go of that so easily sometimes. It's a concept that I'll never understand because I value like long, close friendships so much. So that when people just kind of throw them away, I'm like, how can you do it so easily?
Have you, like, you really don't understand, like, why they did it? Like, it just happened? Because I remember feeling that way and just, like, I don't know, like, why that would happen. Like, I was nothing but good to them, and now, like, this person has given up on me, and I'm, like, so upset after everything that I've done and blah, blah, blah. And I have to remove my ego from it. And then that is when I start to realize that there was a lot of reasons, and even though those reasons might not be very obvious, it's like meaningful, and it's meaningful enough for them to have stopped being friends or like stop being in your life.
But I think sometimes it's different. If they have their own reasons for why they're not doing it, okay. I think it's a little different when it's more of a who they are as a person. I don't know.
I think it's easy to try and deviate yourself from the fault of the friendship, especially when, they're making the choice to like have given up on you and stuff. But not to say that like you're at fault, it's just I have noticed that it tends to be that way where you don't really realize that you're a problem until you really stop to think about the things that you might have done or things you could have done better.
Of course. And I think, I agree with that. And it's not necessarily my point because I think it's also very valid that a lot of times, because it's good. I think it is really good to see things from both point of views and without ego of, well, what did I do wrong? But it's also important to acknowledge that sometimes the other person was literally just the one that wasn't willing to really do anything about it. Because keeping and not giving up on people or deciding to give up on people isn't because of the fact that we have faults.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of someone's refusal to acknowledge those faults and grow. And that's what I mean by it. And so I think your point of what we have to acknowledge our own is, I think, is valid, but it's also just not necessarily what I think is the main issue. Because yeah, we all have faults in friendships and stuff. What separates it is, were they willing to grow? And I think that's what I was talking about. Like, it's kind of like, well, like, you weren't willing to just grow past that. You kind of were okay with staying at that standstill and accepting the consequences that come with it, which is, people leaving.
Yeah.
I think before, I want to say maybe a year ago. I don't really know. I feel like I'm so bad with time. Sometimes that it like kind of worries me because I don't have a timeline of things. But I remember going through a period of time where I just was constantly thinking like, do I give up on my dad? Like, wow. I'm like, I'm not expecting this. Anyways, yeah. I feel like family is one of those things where it's so hard to decide when do you keep fighting for them or hoping that they grow in whatever way, or just give up on them for your own peace of mind, really. And how you said, Thomas, just to protect yourself from false hope and everything like that. But yeah, I just remember I would be thinking like, when is it going to be enough where I realize, this person just isn't going to turn around. They don't want to grow. They're obviously not doing anything to change at all. And so in your head, you're like, okay, yeah, this is a sign that I should just stop waiting around for them and things like that. But I don't know, sometimes they give you little glimpses of, oh, they're actually a good person, or they don't mean what they do or say. But again, just, I don't know. I mean, even to this day, I haven't necessarily given up or kept fighting for him to change or anything. I'm more so now just, okay, I accept I accept what it is, and I'm not going to completely ignore him, but I'm not going to be so sad over him refusing to do anything. It's more so like, okay, it's been years, and I know he knows, everybody knows.
Yeah, I felt that very heavily. And the same thing is kind of like happened with my dad and even my mom a little bit, but it all comes down to protecting yourself, because you can keep fighting and getting hurt and it's not gonna really change. And I think that when I stopped fighting and I kind of became super distant with my family, it hurt a lot, but it was really good for me because, again, I wasn't fighting for them to try and like treat me in a certain way or for them to understand me. And it just, I don't know, I think somehow our relationship got better after that. Like after some time, it just kind of did. But with family, it's always tricky because you're taught to never give up on your family. But there's always, sometimes it comes to a point where you really do have to protect yourself. And, dads especially, immigrant dads, they are so stubborn and they are so stuck in their ways that it's hard to still be there for them after all the shit they put you through. And I don't know. It's the same thing. I don't ignore him. I just kind of, I embrace whatever he has to offer and like the relationship that we can have, but I'm not pushing it to be super great.
Yeah.
Like I've made peace with it.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
We've tried.
We did try.
We put in the effort.
Yeah, that is definitely not an understatement. Like, tried is an understatement. Actually, like we did not just try. We almost tried to force it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just some things just aren't possible, and it's time to protect yourself. Yeah,
it's time. Yeah.
Yeah. I think family is like that other complicated issue where it's honestly just so hard to truly ever feel like you're actually 100% giving up. I think it's like a major life decision the moment where you actually do, to the point where it feels
it's like you don't ever talk to him anymore.
It's like a complete
crazy.
that is an intense
that's crazy
moment.
to fathom, but at the same time I can understand it too.
Yeah.
Because I felt it at some points.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's kind of it for this episode, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for listening. I don't know what could end on the big takeaway. I guess just
everything we said prior.
Yeah.
Everything we said prior. Hope you got something out of it.
Yeah. Literally.
Like I said, like 7 times during this episode, it all comes down to protecting yourself. And that's just true. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, if it's worth it, keep fighting, but
it's no longer about who's right or wrong.
Yeah.
That's okay. Let your ego go. You don't have to be right. You don't have to be wrong. You don't have to prove them wrong. Just let go. It's fine. You'll feel a lot better. No point in arguing. Anyways,
people aren't meant to stay in your lives forever.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. And hold on. Wait, and special edition, big announcement, mood change.
Okay.
One moment.
One moment. Let me suck the tears back up. Guys, we're a Webby nominee.
Woo!
Go Webbies.
Yeah. We got nominated for a
Come
Webby
on,
Award
y'all.
on their podcast. So
We needed a laugh track or like the cheering thing. So just insert it here. Yeah. Yeah, that's us cheering. That's
okay.
you. I hope you guys were cheering with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We make our own laugh tracks. So
Yeah.
anyways, I don't know. That was kind of a cool announcement. Like we were nominated for a Webby, so I hope you guys are proud of us. You can vote for us. The link is in our Instagram bio at Teenager Therapy. Yeah. Thank you all so much for listening and supporting us, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.